Hello, welcome to Wine and Wine, a Magic the Gathering podcast with me, Sam Loy, and my good friend here, Russell Cutting. How are you today,
Hello.
Russell?
I'm quite well. Drinking some wine and feeling fine. How are you,
Yeah,
Samuel
we,
Lloyd?
we tend to get in the mood a little bit on ahead of time on these ones, so lovely for anyone who's joining us here. Tonight, our topic is Jumpstart Historic Horizons, where we're going to give you a little bit of a list of our top 10 additions to the format. But before we get started, Russell, what are you drinking?
So tonight I am indulging. It's a cozy Sunday night. We are starting to warm up from the coldest winter. So I have got myself a nice little French number, which is a Beaujolais Morgon. Beaujolais, region of France, producing Gamay. Normally these wines are drunk pretty much within a year of production, but they are starting to make some like cru or wine to be aged. It's actually a 5-year-old example, and I'm in love. I love it.
Yeah,
It's
well,
so good.
for anyone who's wondering, I was lucky enough to see Russell open it on camera, and I've been very jealous the entire time since.
The cork is immaculate. It is absolutely astounding. It's so good.
Classic
Um,
wine nerd behavior.
hey, hey,
All right,
what are
well,
you
allow me to
drinking, Samuel?
share with you what I'm drinking. I'm
Yeah,
drinking
what are you drinking?
a Windy's Last Stand Barossa Shiraz from Yalumba. Um,
Delightful. So
yeah,
good.
it is. It is. It's actually really tasty. Won't break the bank either. So if you're more in my price range than Russell's, give this one a go.
This was only like 25 bucks.
Yeah, I stand by my comment.
Fair enough. If you do have interest in wine, because it is wine and wine and want to chat with us, do feel free to hit us up. More than happy to wax lyrical. If there is interest over time, we might even think about writing some tasting notes to accompany the show. But that's in the far future, I suppose.
All right. Yeah. No, I mean, I feel exactly the
That's a
same
goal
way.
of mine. That's a goal. That's a personal goal. That's a sweetheart of mine.
Look, we don't want to just whine on this channel. We want to whine on this channel.
Well, let's wine.
Let's
And
whine.
by that I
Okay.
mean complain.
Well,
I
oh, okay,
mean,
that one. All right, sure.
critique,
Critique.
construction, criticism.
We're
Oh
very
God, I
reasonable about
mean,
things. Okay, all right.
very
Let's get into
reasonable.
the state of the format then.
Okay.
Okay, so the state of the format. So the format being historic and Magic the Gathering Arena
Hmm.
exclusive
Yes.
format. Uh, Russell, what's in historic?
Um, Good question, I suppose.
Yeah.
There is a large contention about what is exactly in or out historic. I suppose it originally came about as an extension of standard because they don't allow dusting or trading. They're like, all right, what do we do with all these cards that rotate? And we got that, and that was kind of the thing for a while. But then they're like, hey, let's inject some cards. So they had a bunch of ancillary products and even sets. So we got
Yep.
historic anthologies X, Y, Z. We got the Amonkhet edition. Um, Mystical Archives being the largest big kind of spoke getting kicked out in the wheel recently. But
Yep, that was the biggest impact so far. I
honestly,
mean,
I've got no idea. I've got no idea.
yeah.
I
So
was
they
looking
they
through these
keep adding
cards.
things. Yeah,
Yeah,
they just keep
I
adding
looked
things.
through.
Essentially, they just
Yeah.
keep adding
Oh, they
things.
did the jumpstart as well.
Yeah, first jump start. Now this jump start.
Yeah,
But it's not all a jump start. It's most of jump start without some of the
most of
cards,
it, and
and it's
most of the mythical
this and most
archives.
of that. It's most of mystical archives. It's not all of mystical archives. And then there's obviously these bespoke releases where they're tailoring things just for the format.
Yeah,
Along with that, they also suspend cards without banning them just to give it a try. They've been very good about gathering information that way. Currently suspended is Brainstorm, which I'm not happy about, by the way. I'm not happy about that one. However, generally, it's been a pretty good idea. We had cards like Burning Tree Emissary suspended for a while before it got brought back, once they decided it wasn't actually problematic. So you never really know. It's an interesting format. I like that it rotates so much, or it doesn't rotate so much, but there's always new things coming into it, and I do enjoy that on
Changes
a
a
personal
lot.
level.
Fluctuates, you know?
Fluctuations. There's always new additions. There's always new things to consider. I don't know if that would work outside of an online format, but hey, good news. It is an online format, so
Yeah, and like I was looking at a bunch of these cards before and we were messaging about stuff and what we liked and what we thought make the top 10. I'm like, holy smokes, look at these cards. How could they introduce them to historic? And you're just like, they're already in historic. What are you talking about? And
I'm like, yo, dude, that's been illegal for a while. But like at the same time, it's the sort of thing as well that you need X amount of synergy for something to go into a deck, and
yeah,
it's a very synergy based format, and a little bit archetype driven as well. So
sure.
when we get to our top 10 list, we've tried to break it down. We tried originally to break it down into the 10 best cards, but we added
Doesn't
some extra
work.
onto the slides just because some cards need other cards for support, and there's no point talking about them on their own. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's an interesting one. It is absolutely an interesting one. So, Russell, yeah, the online only effects. So, the other big thing that they introduced with this set, as opposed to all the other things they've added into Historic, were some effects that can only work in an online format. And, very reminiscent of games like Hearthstone, where you need the online format to be able to track the actual. I was going to say literal piece of cardboard, but digital piece of cardboard, where you couldn't
Yeah.
do that in real lives. So, what do you reckon about these online only effects?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, some of them are vaguely already incorporated into Magic Design, like super duper old design, which was problematic at the time. But again, originally I was like quite trepidatious about this when they said, oh, we're going to have an 800 plus card injection into Modern Horizons, including these online only stuff. And they had a couple of examples which they dropped and they were like among the most powerful, I think, or among the most ambitious of the designs.
Ambitious is a good word for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was extremely skeptical about it, and at the time, I was like, right, I guess I'm done with historic. I'm just gonna stick to draft and the occasional standard because this looks wild, and why are you trying to replicate other games when you've got a platform which has existed for 25 years and is successful? But what they've introduced is a very limited card pool. They've been, besides the one or two original kind of examples, they've been quite reserved and within spec. And I'm hopeful for a couple of reasons. One, because they've been a little bit reserved, and two, because I guess in theory, if they are introducing them in an online-only platform, they can adapt, change, whatever the word is in computer programming
Yeah,
with
they can
these
hotfix
cards.
all of them. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
they can hotfix. I mean, it's something
yeah.
problematic. They can nerf it, I suppose. So, um,
Which you'd never
there
be able to
have
do with a
been,
paper card, of course. You'd have your choices with a
yeah,
paper card are to ban it or to unban it, I suppose, if it's already banned. The only time we've ever seen anything like that was the companion mechanic, and that was relatively recently. So
yes,
we'll have to see. I figure they might be able to move the numbers with a little bit more, I don't know, a little bit more subtly, let's say, than they did with the companion mechanic. But yeah, I'm interested to see how it goes. I personally, I know that you started off pretty negative about it, but you've come around. I started off pretty positive about it, and I kind of stay positive about the mechanics itself, but I'm not that positive about all their effects, and most of them don't, to me, matter in terms of the format. Although there are a couple who made our list, so look forward to
yeah. I
that.
mean that's the thing. Like, there is an honorable mention I want to chuck in before we get into it, where there has been a lot of talk around the combination between Vesperlark and Davriel's Withering, which can permanently alter the stats of Vesperlark and potentially get an infinite combo of sorts.
It's infinite enter the battlefields, right?
Yeah, and enter the battlefield, which is a pretty easy engine to abuse, or it
Mhm.
could lock up the programming. So whether that's, but like, thankfully, one of those cards is something that can be edited potentially, or
Yeah.
Um,
So Vesperlight
removing
can't be
the format.
changed because it's a paper card, but Davriel's Withering can be. So we'll
Yes.
see how we go with that. But I'll wait for someone to break it first, and then I'll start with
Oh, for
you.
sure.
That's
Yeah.
when the wine will come in, one or
Yes.
the other. Whichever
But
one.
for the most part, pretty content. There's a lot of interesting design which can be tweaked if necessary.
Okay, so the last point we have here is the direction of design in the format. I think that, to me, the biggest part of design in Historic is the ability to change things all the time, the willingness to change things all the time. Something that we see to be a problem with Standard in the online world is that, hey, maybe you have a very powerful set, let's call it Eldraine, and you
What?
need to ban cards from it, and then it still dominates the format for the entire legality of that set in Standard. Being able to shift things quickly in a format like Historic has its benefits, and it also, and maybe not even with a ban, maybe by just introducing more cards to either deal with that archetype or to power up other ones. That being said, it does play into the what is an even in Historic problem. Like, it's very hard to know what's going on in the format, and it's very hard to. I mean, you can't even really assume that your favorite deck or your favorite archetype is going to remain competitive. So, what are your thoughts on that, Russell?
Look, I mean, in the case of Throne of Eldraine, surely if you ban the first swath of cards and it's still overpowered, you can ban the second swath of cards, and it should be kosher, right? Like, it should just be easy.
Well, I mean, in theory,
Oh
but
wait,
that
you got to
didn't
burn the
work.
third swath of cards, and it's fine.
Well, okay, so what if we had a
No, the
third banning and
fourth.
that didn't work?
Okay, you broke it. No, jokes aside on Throne. Look, there is like they're being a little bit more. Is it bullish or bearish where they're conservative? I can never figure out these
Bearish.
terms. Bearish. They're being a little bit more bearish on Historic. I dislike their principle of suspension in some cases, where it just is a feel bad for a lot of people that spend wild cards and are not given back what they lost, particularly with other problems, which we're not getting into. But if you look at the direction of design in terms of things being introduced to the format, you either have curated things like this jumpstart mechanic, which although it being 800 cards, there aren't that many impactful cards. There are certainly some, which we'll be getting into, but there are a lot of reprints or cards that are basically for the format only, which is great. And if you look at the standard cards that are being injected into the format, we are looking at a period of powering down. So Historic is in a bit of a state of flux with this immediate injection of power, but I don't think it should be that twisting. I did have a big problem with Historic before, where you would inject a lot of cash or time or energy, call it what you will, and you would have stuff invalidated quite quickly. This doesn't look like it's going to do too much damage with this immediate injection of Jumpstart, and the future injections of Standard don't look like they're going to destroy the format as much as we've seen the kind of like upheaval of Mythical Archive and the original Jumpstart, which were very big ones.
They were big
So,
deals. The original Jumpstart
um,
basically changed the whole format. So, yeah,
they were
I
big
think,
waves. These are like littler waves that look like they're
yeah,
being controlled a little bit more.
a little bit more targeted, I think,
Yeah,
and especially trying to get some archetypes which are currently maybe tier 2, maybe tier 3, depending on your
yeah,
perspective, trying to push them up a little bit. Although, hey, there's some really powerful stuff in here as well. So I guess we'll just have to see.
for sure.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like they're introducing too many more archetypes, which has been the case, but more like giving little buffs to pre-existing archetypes, which I quite appreciate.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
there are a couple of archetypes which may be introduced through this, which, yeah, we'll chat about.
We'll chat about it when we get there. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. Well, without further ado, we're going to go get into our top 10 list. And, all right, let's see it. Number 10. So, there's two new cards here. And this is Russell's pick. for Yawgmoth Thran Physician. And I just chucked Putrid Goblin in here because they're a natural match. They're made in heaven. Best friends, 5 ever. So,
For sure.
Russell, talk to us.
So Yawgmoth is a card that has had some impact in Modern. It has had a pseudo archetype, which isn't necessarily tier 1, 2, or whatever, injected into it. But when I'm looking at a card that has a sacrifice ability with an effect that, in theory, can generate card advantage that doesn't have a mana cost associated with it, that is certainly a cause for notice and potentially concern. Plus, tacked onto it, not only can it generate card advantage in the terms of drawing cards if it's involved with tokens, but it can also end up with board control that -1/-1 counter. So this card is an engine, and it's a very good one.
Yeah, and we have seen it in Modern before. The only reason this is so low on the list is it is a card that goes well with extra bodies, which Persist gives you, but it's a card that goes extremely well with Undying creatures, and we don't have any of them. So we may get Undying creatures in the future. In fact, I wouldn't be shocked to see that if this doesn't immediately make an effect. Yeah, I mean, we could have it in the next 2 sets, right? Like in Standard. We could actually get it because we're back to Innistrad. Yeah.
That's why I'm a little bit prickle on the neck about it, you know?
Well, this is a card as well that when Modern Horizons 1 came out, I was a huge fan of this card, and it took a little while for it to get played. And it's getting played now. It's still not a tier 1 archetype as far as I know, but the card's very, very powerful. And, hey, if this is a tier 1 deck, I'm probably going to dislike losing to it as much as I will, but at the same time, it's really cool. And also, flavor win, so that's nice.
It's got one of the best flavor wins in all of Magic history. The fact that in Modern, it costs 4, which is like a big hurdle to jump.
Yeah, it's really expensive for Modern.
But we're looking Historic, which is certainly a slower format.
Well, that's another thing here as well, that because this is Historic, it doesn't need to land as a combo kill finisher card. This can be a bit more of a value engine in Historic and still be playable. I know that we have a lot of these graveyard-based decks, which are relatively effective at the moment. Not all in graveyard, but like creature value graveyard decks. So for those decks, this card's going to be real.
There's no reason this can't be a one-of in like the cat oven existing strategies. There's no reason it can't spawn another archetype. It's a proven effective engine with some really good stats, and it is pushed but not completely broken. But it's just something you got to keep an eye on when you have something that has no... I mean, 1 life is a cost, but it's not a great cost, but it's like essentially quote-unquote free to perform an action, and that action itself is quite impactful. So, just a bit of a side eye on this one. I'm not terrified of it breaking a format. It's just like this can break a format quite easily.
Absolutely. And all right, so I think we're done with Yawgmoth, but just before we go, Russell, do you mind reading us the flavor text on Putrid Goblin?
Too stupid to survive, too dumb to live, much like myself.
This is how we do. Okay, so the next card, this is...
Speaking of goblins!
It's a goblin! It goes in the goblin deck. Did you notice that this is a goblin that goes in the goblin deck?
Is it? It's a goblin that goes in the goblin deck?
Yeah, it's weird. I think this card is... I mean, we've seen a very long line of cards which are 1 mana haste upside auras, or maybe even a sorcery or something like that. Next creature enters with a +1/+1 counter and has haste. We just got one that does it for the whole team in first day of class. I think that this is just way more relevant than almost all of them. First of all, goblins in Historic needs 1-drops. This is a 1-drop. Additionally, it works extremely well with the payoffs for goblins, and goblins has been tier 1 a lot in Historic. Since we got the first Jumpstart, we've had a lot of, mini seasons, let's call them, for Historic, in which goblins have been either tier 1 or tier 1.5. And sometimes they've been tier 1 all by themselves. So This card going into that archetype is, I think, just it's going to matter, and it's a very narrow sort of way that it's going to matter, but it will matter.
Yeah, look, you were higher on this one than I was. You pointed out to me, I had a quick look. I appreciate and respect that it has quite a lot of relevant text. I think it might be something like 2 of in the Goblins deck. I don't think it breaks it to the next level. I mean, at the moment, I think Goblin's about 1.5. I think this improves the deck, but it doesn't crack it wide open as much. Like, it certainly does not have the impact as Muxus or Gem Palm, Incinerator, or Goblin Matron, all that sort of stuff. But it is a tool. It's certainly something that can add to the curve. I think it's that list is pretty tight.
So what's the 4-drop legend? That's the number one card for this to go with. Krenko. So this is a Krenko synergy piece.
A lot boss. Yeah, it certainly enabled Krenko a lot better. We had that a little bit with Snoop.
And Warchief as well. Yeah.
And Warchief. Yeah. But it's hard to ignore a hasty 1-drop that does stuff and is perpetually adding to a card, so modifying a card's text. Very interesting.
Really interesting. Raging Goblin.
And it's not just goblins, right? Like in theory, this could do stuff in like a red-green aggressive deck.
Red-green aggro has already been pretty good. They're currently playing a lot of haste creatures, so I'm not assuming it goes in that, but it is certainly an option for them as well. So we'll have to see. It's only 9th on this list for a reason, but hey, this is a great example of perpetual. I think that this is not too pushed, but hey, it's got the chance to get into a deck that's already well established. So
it's got such a low opportunity cost, and it gives what is secretly the best keyword in Magic to
haste?
A card.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Haste is the best keyword. It's the best keyword by a long way.
I mean, does draw a card count? Probably not, right?
No.
Oh, okay. Keyword. All right. Fine. Okay. All right. Moving on. Next up, we have number 8 on our list, and this is a 2/4.
Yeah.
I think you had Skyshroud Lookout, Russell, and I had Freyalise.
Yeah. I certainly had Freyalise up there, but Skyshroud Lookout certainly took the cake for me, basically based on mana cost and what it does.
Yeah, they're both very good cards. I mean, in most draws, this is a better Elvish Visionary. It depends on the format, but in Historic, because you're forced to play more lands than you would in Modern or Legacy Elves, this is probably better than an Elvish Visionary for you. Sometimes you're going to wish it was draw a card instead of draw an elf, but still.
I think for the most part, it is better. And yeah, reach is a nice touch, but when you're building a deck, particularly when you know what this does, like you can work out your mana base to elf ratio, and I think this is going to be a better one where you're guaranteed to draw a non-creature card and one that basically matters. A non-land card, sorry, and one that matters. So,
yeah, one that matters for your strategy.
It's a pretty scary pseudo, like it's better than draw. I think it is too. Yeah, I agree. I think it is better than draw card. Quite an upgrade to Elvish Visionary, and Visionary sees play in Legacy. So
yeah,
that tips me off being good. I only put it above Freyalise in my ratings because it costs 2, not 3.
I mean, that's a great reason as well.
And as a creature, but Freyalise is so good, so you can probably walk us through that one.
Yeah, well, if you don't mind. So Freyalise is a 3-cost planeswalker with 4 loyalty. We've seen that before. Normally a problem. The one thing about this one, though, very elf-focused. So this is not going to get into every deck, same as Skyshroud Lookout, of course. I wouldn't be surprised if Skyshroud Lookout found a random, very powerful elf that a particular strategy needs, but Freyalise is, hey, I'm playing, 30 elves in this deck. I'm playing Freyalise as well. The plus one untapped up to one target elf, so you can make that into a little bit of a mana engine. That elf and a random elf creature card in your hand perpetually get plus one. And this is where this card just absolutely sold me. It untaps an elf, and then you get +2 power perpetually. That's incredible to me. That just adds so much power to the board. Not even just to the board. Some of it's to your hand, I guess. But then the -1 seek an elf card. So that's the same effect on Skyshroud Lookout. So you can go just grab an elf if you don't have enough elves. And then -6, conjure a Regal Force onto the battlefield. Regal Force being normally a 7 mana 5/5 that draws a card for each creature you control. So this is, the absolute dream of elf players everywhere. If you're playing Elf Ball and you're playing a million elves, I'm sure you would love this card in basically every format. The only question about this, and why it may be worse than Skyshroud Lookout, is, hey, are there enough good elves for this card? Are there enough elves to play a elf-centric strategy? I think there are, but at the same time, cost 3, it's harder to ramp out on turn 2 than it would be in other formats, and it doesn't impact the board as much as you may like, you know? So if this had Arbor Elf as well, or, hey, it's got Llanowar Elves, but it doesn't have Elvish Mystic? Is it Elvish Mystic, which is the other 1-drop one?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. I'm pretty sure the elf deck does have it. I might do a bit of research on that one. Like, elves is already a tier 1, 1.5 deck.
Yeah, so I find elves to be like a 1.5, maybe tier 2 deck, but with both these cards coming into it, I think it's about to get that promotion that it deserves. And I'm just really excited to play elves. I love playing elves. So yeah, we have a slight difference of opinion about which one is slightly more powerful than the other, but this is 1A, 1B for both of us, I think.
Yeah. Just a couple of points on Freyleys, I suppose. Regal Force, it's each green creature controls is a small one there. It does just need to be on a green deck, blah, blah, blah. That's not very much.
Well, I've only ever cast Regal Force in elf decks, so that's...
Yeah. So you've got the Jaspara Sentinel as a pseudo...
Yeah, you're not going to turn 2 Freyleys off Jaspara Sentinel, which is why I sort of exclude those effects. But that card is good,
sure.
So...
My main issue a lot with Freyleys is the elf you want to untap is normally a mana producing elf that is not going to want to attack. So you lose half of that ability with that +1/+1. But this is arguing against a freaking tidal wave. It's an extremely powerful card. I see it being as a 2 to 3, whereas the reason I bumped Skyshroud Lookout, I think it's a 3 to 4.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if Skyshroud Lookout wasn't a 4-off. Yeah.
I think it takes over Visionary, and the deck still plays 2 Visionary on top of it.
That would make sense to me as well. Yeah, I'm a little higher on Freyleys. I think it's got that normal broken planeswalker model, which is maybe it's got 1 too many loyalty, maybe its +1 should be a +0, maybe it gives 1 too many counters, this or the other thing. So we'll see how broken Freyleys is. I think we both agree that Skyshroud Lookout's going to be dumb. That card's going to just be good. So just excited to play elves, really.
I'm not.
Hey, you don't like wrathing the board? Come on.
I love wrathing the board.
Yeah, sure. All right. Okay. Let's move on. Let's go to number 7.
Sure.
Okay. Number 7 is a bit of a package.
Here we are.
Yeah, here we are. Hey, Russell, do you want to show us your shirt?
Reanimator, baby.
Baby.
Just played a tournament today, Reanimator. It was great.
Yeah. Yeah, so these are 3 of our favorite cards from Modern Horizons 2, basically because they go in Reanimator packages. We're missing Big Daddy Archon, but at the same time, this is a lot of the powerful cards they added to the format of Modern and 7-Point Highlander from Modern Horizons 2. So I think that we both had a card on this list, but they weren't the same one. But we couldn't decide who was right or who was wrong. So what are your thoughts, Russell?
Look, Priest of Fell Rites and Sarah's Emissary are extremely splashy, extremely powerful cards doing what they do. Emissary is a target. Priest of Fell Rites is a reanimator spell, in a sense. Both are very, very good at what they do. Sarah's Emissary is a card that I absolutely gooned up today. I forgot that it gave me protection from creatures, so I scooped when my
Oh,
opponent
Russell.
had
Russell.
lethal, but they didn't
Oh,
have
honey.
lethal. Because
Oh,
I have
honey.
protection from creatures. I'm so
Baby
dumb.
girl.
I'm so dumb. It was the first time I played with it. I'm
Yeah.
definitely gonna get. I was like talking about it with my brother. I'm like, I'm not sure if this card's actually good enough because it doesn't do enough, and you can't race with it. And they're like, you do realize you can't die? I'm like, I'm a big dummy. So it kills in 3 hits. So that's potentially one of the best reanimated targets we've ever seen in Historic. Now that I know how it works,
Yeah, I
probably
think I
quite
think this is
good.
number one now, right? Like,
Probably quite good.
yeah. Do you think this
Um,
is number one now? Because you and I have both tried to make Reanimator work in Historic before, and to various success, but nothing to really blow you out of the water. Um,
yeah, we have some weird and wonderfuls with the Sphinx
Sphinx of
of
the Lost Trove, yeah.
Lost Trove, which could do some stuff. But that was kind of like a cute package. I think if you're going raw reanimator Sarah's Emissary is really going to get the job done.
Hmm.
Priest of Fell Rights is a extremely efficient reanimator spell slash creature, but I played with Bone Shards today, and I think it's one of the best like role player cards you could have for that deck. I think it's a huge win, particularly with Historic being a creature-centric format. This enables so much. It has such a low opportunity cost. In fact, it enables your deck while being one of the best of like removal spells in the game. So um, I'd say Emissary is your best target. Bone Charge should be in any deck you want to reanimate with, and Priest of Fell Rights is maybe a 2 of.
Can't help but agree. Yeah, just
Yeah.
very excited to play this.
Bone Shards is disgusting. I played with it today. It rocked my socks off. And Emissary should have won me a game, but I'm a huge fat dummy.
Oh well, that's how we do it at On One on One. We make misplays and we
I'm
make
learning,
fun of
man.
ourselves later.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, 3 extremely powerful cards to a archetype which I think is playable, but has struggled a little bit. It just hasn't quite had the oomph it needs. And these are 3 big shot in the arms. Like, huge
So,
impactful cards.
fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Reanimator is making a comeback.
The best thing about Emissary, it's not legendary, so you can get multiple on the battlefield and get multiple protections. Like I'm playing 7-point Highlander where I get exactly 1, but Historic, you can run 4. And like the first
Absolutely,
one gives you protection from what the removal spell is, and then the second one gives you protection from creatures, and you just can't lose. The
yep,
end.
absolutely. All right. Yeah, I think we're both happy to see that, and hopefully you'll see us online playing those very soon.
Mm.
All right, number 6, a very similar card,
Yeah.
but one that goes in a different archetype. But Bone Shards might make it into this same deck, and maybe
Yeah.
Priest of the Fell Rights too. So I didn't want to put them all on the same 2 slides again. But Return to the Ranks is a card that it has some play. It has some play in the past. Not quite as much as I would have liked it to have had, but what it really needed was a mid-sized format. So not something quite as powerful as Modern, but something with enough access to cards and creatures to both enable and reward it. And I think it's in a really good position in Historic, particularly because of cards like Priest of the Fell Rights being in the format now, but also cards like Stitches Supplier and Insolent Neonate, which is also in this set. So a card that allows you to play more of a graveyard-centric, low CMC, low mana value creature combo deck,
Have to choose
similar
it. Yes.
to yeah, similar to aristocrat style decks of the past, amongst others, and a card that really has. Look, it's a card that is very simple on its face, but also a card which has really such a broad upside and such a card that will get much better when random cards are just put into the format that I couldn't help but put it on the list.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly has had pedigree, both in standard and to a certain extent pioneer. It is a subtly powerful card. It does improve over time with creatures that of low mana cost but have some intrinsic value stapled on. Convoke is one of the best and yet slightly broken mechanics of all time. It is balanced, but certainly extremely powerful.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, Return to the Ranks is not one that I look to begin with, and I didn't have this anywhere near in my power rankings, but I've been talked up on it, and yeah, I'm in accord. It's a pretty scary card. It can do quite a lot of things, particularly when you start to introduce things like Yawgmoth, where you have a free, quote unquote, sacrifice outlet. If you can all of a sudden return a bunch of stuff from stuff produced by creatures dying, and you can just like continue that, not infinite loop, but enough of a loop to close the game.
Yeah.
It's very good at what it does. For a spell that can basically cost nothing, it does quite a lot.
Yeah. 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 Well, I'm glad to have you on the return to the ranks, Team Russell. Or
I return to
you've
the ranks.
returned. You're finally back. Good to see
I'm
you.
back. I'm
Oh,
back,
that's nice.
baby. Sub
Okay.
me in, coach.
All right. Okay. All right. Next up, we have number 5, and this is the one that I put on the list, which I think probably most confuses Russell. And with that in mind, why don't you start instead of me?
Uh, Look, I have some problems with this one, mostly because we exist in a format where faithless looting is legal still for some unknown reason.
Because it's
It
awesome.
doesn't. Yeah. Faceless looting, I feel, is more powerful on the surface. This has some weird interactions where it provides a free spot at the start of the turn, which I suppose can do some stuff. Um, I am a little bit of a loss why you wanted to put it this high, but I am giving you the benefit of the doubt and
All right.
want you to
All right. Allow
defend
me to
yourself
explain myself.
because I do have the hooked spear to render your flesh from you because this is awful.
Well, okay, this became way higher stakes just now. All right.
Yeah, well, let's
Okay,
grab
yeah.
that one.
Russell, you actually did touch on the reason I put it here, and the answer is there's no free spells in Historic. There's actually just no free spells in Historic. So there's no Metamorphose, there's no Phyrexian Mana, there's none of that. You can't do anything for free. And as someone who plays a lot of Arclight Phoenix Demi-Lich decks, at the moment, I couldn't help but put this really, really high on the list. So the reason this card's good is there's 3 cards that reward you for playing this in your deck, and some of which, some of those cards are getting played in other archetypes at the moment. The example I'm talking about there is Hollow One, which gets played in the cycling deck in a very unfun kind of way, where the introduction of Faithless Salvaging into the format, along with other cards like Basking Rootwaller, is going to, I think, allow these all-in aggro decks to exist in Historic the same way they do in Modern, where you have cards like Burning Inquiry and Goblin Lore to enable cards like Hollow One, let's say Arclight Phoenix, and Burning Rootwaller. And there's also that card from Amonkhet, which is the name of which escapes me, the red 1/2 menace that gets extra power every time you discard a card,
Oh, that guy.
which is also legal in
Okay.
Historic, right? Uh,
Yeah, would be.
so for this card is perhaps not a card that's going to make other cards get played. It's a card that's going to make other cards that already get played in more fun ways. And that's why I really wanted to include it on the list. And additionally, will really power up Arclight Phoenix and Demi-Lich.
Okay, fair enough. I see the point. I remain unconvinced. I would have put
Excellent.
this I would have put
It's
this.
not a top 10 list without a disagreement. We'll put it that way.
I would have put this below Yawgmoth.
Yeah.
It's good in a sense, but like it costs so much for such a minimal effect, and like
It's an
it's just
instant.
work. It's just it doesn't matter.
It does matter.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, Russell, our standard bet. If I'm right, you hug me, and if you're right, I'll hug you. Okay?
Done.
All right.
Deal.
Excellent. Okay, so that's my most controversial pick out of the way. All right,
Nah,
like
nah.
on to number 4.
Let me just, oh, whoa. Flame Blade Adept.
That's the card. Yeah, Flame Blade
Jackal
Adder.
Warrior, baby. Done.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of cards that are waiting for more of this effect that I think will first of all get played and also be more fun. So
Yeah.
for me, this card is gets high up my list just because I think it will go into decks that people will enjoy playing. Anyway, as spoiled just by me before,
The Fishy Boys.
hey, the folk of the Mer. So the reason these are here is essentially because of Civilum. Is that the right way to say it?
Film. Yeah.
Film of Sea and Sky. A card, Merfolk
Yeah.
God, in fact,
Yeah.
that has broken its way into modern Merfolk, even convincing people to drop Lurrus out of their Merfolk deck. I don't know how they did that, but, you know, it was effective. But, you know, a card which is very powerful and recently printed. Alongside which we have Master of the Pearl Trident and Shoreline Scout. Shoreline Scout is a consistency card. It's not a huge deal, but hey, it's a cool thing to do. Cool thing to have. It's a 1-mana 2/1 for Merfolk, which is not something that you really always get, and it also normalizes your draws a little bit. Maybe you're too heavy on creatures, maybe you're too heavy on land, and you know, if you're too heavy on land, you just leave it, and if not, you go get yourself a trop.
Well, I mean, you can exile a land card because like the Merfolk in Historic are traditionally blue-green, so it's like it's an island.
Yeah.
You're just like, all right, I'll exile my basic island and upgrade it to a trop. Like,
Yeah. Sorry, Russell. I actually forgot that you do actually upgrade a land. So in Historic, just to contextualize this for everyone listening, in case you are not aware, we have all the Ixalan Merfolk, which was the start of when they started making arena sets, which means that we have the blue-green Lord, the name of which escapes me. Blue-green, other Merfolk get +1/+1. Yeah. And that's an important piece of this as well. Along with Mirror Regery, that gives us the number of lords that we do have in Modern for modern Merfolk, and we also have Collected Company legal in the format as well. So this is not a deck I've seen played.
And Silvergill Adept, which I forgot was in Ixalan.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
The Regery with apparently an Silvery product.
Yeah. I think it might have been an anthology.
What a stuff.
Yeah, so we have a lot of the core. We don't have any curse catchers, but like apart from that,
who needs Curse Catcher?
I mean, not me.
Scout is so much better than Curse Catcher.
Very true.
So much better. It's potentially one of the best one-drop Merfolk of all time.
Several better, a significant amount better. So this deck is probably going to be actually legit. Like every time I've played against it in Historic, and people do like playing Merfolk, so I have seen it. I've never had any trouble beating it, and it kind of makes me sad. I really do enjoy Merfolk, so I wanted it to be better, and I think we might have it. I think this might be enough.
It's a lot.
It's so much for a deck that only really wants 30 cards. You know, so you play your 30 cards, a little bit of disruption, you collect companies, you're good to go.
We are
having an extra 12 cards to add to that.
So we're lacking a couple of bits and bobs, but we also do get the MH2 uncommon that does do that Seas Claim Spreading Seas trick. So
do we get that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
I did not know that was legal. Hang on.
Yeah, that one's legal as well. I can't quite remember the name, but it's the 2-mana one that...
Hang on, I got one in this pile.
Yeah, add it in. The 2-mana Merfolk that makes something an island, and it also gets ++1, so it... that's
Tide Shaper.
Tide Shaper. So it's, yeah, there we are. So it's a 1 mana 1/1, has like kicker 1, and it
Kicker
can
1. When
turn.
Tide Shaper enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, target land becomes an island for as long as Tide Shaper remains on the battlefield. Tide Shaper gets +1/+1 as long as an opponent controls an island. I actually did
Yeah,
not know that was going into this set, and that makes a huge difference because the
yeah, it's
Island
pretty.
Walk on Master of the Pearl Trident is now
Um,
relevant.
I am pretty sure. I'm just going to make sure I'm not making an absolute fool of myself. But
Well, I know. I mean, one of the points I was going to bring up is that this Master of the Pearl Trident is waiting for a Spreading Seas style effect.
yeah,
Obviously, Spreading Seas is very powerful, and I understand why they don't want to print it. But hey,
I think the
I'll take a Tide
Merfolk's on
Shaper.
par. Like that Merfolk is on par with Spreading Seas.
Yeah, yeah, it's similar.
Start with S.
Tide Shaper.
Not Tide Shaper. I'm pretty sure I might be completely talking my ass. Uh-oh.
Well, regardless of whether that card is legal or not,
Oh
I'm
no,
actually
I'm
excited
talking
by
on
this.
my ass. I'm the worst.
Oh, you were wrong.
I was wrong. I thought I
Ah,
saw
sorry.
it.
Well, it doesn't really
We are
matter to
fallible.
me. It doesn't matter that it's legal or not. Like, I think that there's enough anyway. I would like to see all these. So, I mean, this is a concerted effort from this set to make sure that we have a bunch of tribes legal. And I think they've done a good job. So, we've seen a bunch of elves, we've seen one goblin, but a useful one to me. One of the things we left out, there's a whole bunch of slivers getting dropped into the format.
I
Uh,
refuse to talk about them.
yeah, I don't think there's quite enough, or even if there is, the mana may not make it work. But
They,
I would
they,
expect more in the future as well. So I expect slivers to be something that happens in this format. Maybe even if not now, it'll happen within 6 months, probably, given the
yeah,
amount of
they
cards that
have to
released
be
into
careful with
Historic.
it. They can't just let that happen.
Yeah. Um. Anyway, so Merfolk, I'm here for it, and I think it's going to be good.
Yeah, they've given it another shot in the arm that it certainly needed. I think between that Master and Spellum is a pretty good start and a very good one drop. Works it out. So apologies for that misinformation on the Tide, whatever it is. I thought that wasn't
Shaper.
there. I thought we did have a Spreading Seas in this set, but it doesn't look like we do. Might do an addendum if we need it, but hey,
I'm just shaping tides over here. Just
I'm fallible. I've had lots of wine.
Yeah,
Deal with it.
that's what you get in 1-1. You guys have had too much wine. All right, okay. So the next one
Next.
is an honorable mention.
Oh yes. The
We could not leave this card out. We couldn't leave it out.
sure.
This card is too fun to leave out.
Yeah.
So for anyone who is newer to Magic, the effect of this card, which is X tap, discard a card, create a token that's a copy of a random creature card with mana value X, activate only as a sorcery, was a whole format on the previous Magic Online format. I mean, Magic Online.
Still
I mean,
exists.
I guess
Still
it's still
happens.
around, so I shouldn't say previous. But this card is it's so fun to play, Momir. And
I mean,
my hope is that they allow us to play this card in some sort of special events on Arena, similar to Momir.
maybe, but again, it is a little bit repressed by the creature pool of
The
what
creature
is
pool
in
is
it.
certainly smaller, yeah.
It's
Obviously,
not as
this
good.
won't grab any creature from Magic's history like it would on the other client, but at the same time, hey, those were fun games. So
The creatures are better these days, so it is
they are
like
generally better, yeah.
the floor is higher, but the ceiling is much lower.
I also really love that it's got Momir's face just here
Oh
in
yeah,
the
no,
ooze.
it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
So good. Anyway, has to be mentioned.
It's a
We-
win. They won it.
honors to Mumia.
Bow to the
Okay.
queen. Bow to the
Yeah.
queen.
Absolutely. Let's hit our top three. So coming in at third, Archmage's Charm. Russell.
This card is only limited by its triple blue casting cost. It is disgustingly powerful, disgustingly versatile. It has had a huge impact on the modern format, which is why we're immediately drawn to it. And there is already a fringe to maybe tier 2 mono blue flash deck, which this just will reap so many benefits in. And provided the mana allows it or people are sensible enough with it, this could certainly exist within 2 color decks, and it's just, yeah, a benchmark of flexibility and power. It's very good.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I really have nothing to add to that. The three options are very good. I think that steal a 1 CMC permanent is something that is really going to be what makes or breaks this card. But being able to do that in blue is just so good. Like, it's just so good. And if you're in a slower matchup, you're drawing cards or countering spells. So there's just not that much room for this card to be bad. It just needs to be castable.
I mean, the draw to account playful is fine, and we are seeing Dragon's Rage Channeler, which I don't think we've talked about yet, coming into the format, and that's pretty.
Yeah, this has been making a lot of 75s lately, well 60s really, in modern, just because it can take Dragon's Rage Channeler and Ragavan in modern, as well as Death's Shadow. It can take Hammer from the Hammer deck, and it's just a very versatile card that deals with the thing that the draw card decks lose to, which is incredible aggression. So
I mean, none of those aforementioned cards are presently legal in Historic, but this is one of those cards that increases in value with the increasing value of the card pool. The better the one drops become, the better the cheaper the cards become, which are the most important ones become, the better this card becomes, because the first 2 modes are fine to good, but when that third mode becomes very good, that's when this card really starts to shine.
Absolutely, couldn't have said it better. Absolutely, yeah. This could have been moved up the list slightly or moved down the list slightly based on what's in the format, but let's see the other cards which are coming to us right now, which include this artifact package.
Yeah, this one is subtle but scary.
Yeah, so for me, the poster child of this, and the one I was happiest about seeing, was Mirror Enforcer. Probably the least impactful of the three, but at the same time,
boy, he's so chunky.
He's so chunky. He looks like he's got a good belly to rub.
Man, you got a tum.
Tum Tum.
Tum Tum the Enforcer.
So, out of these 3 cards, we've
Betamax.
seen Baymax. Yeah, he's Baymax.
Baymax.
Yeah. So probably the most powerful of these, at least in terms of modern, since it got printed there, was Thought Monitor. So the ability to Thought Cast and also have a flying body.
Nettle Cyst. They're both very close.
Yeah, I've seen way more Thought Monitor in the all artifact decks, and Nettle Cyst is sort of playing second fiddle in those decks, which is where I see this getting played. But at the same time, maybe Nettle Cyst becomes the best of these 3 because I mean, there's an archetype it goes into.
Yeah. I think the modern Thought Monitor is much better. For Nettle Cyst, where it's about controlling the battlefield, Nettle Cyst takes the cake because it's massive and its equip cost is trivial.
Yeah. I mean, the fact it's a living weapon matters a lot. The fact that it counts enchantments is going to matter a lot. We've seen these enchantments matter. Core Spirit Dancer decks in Historic already. They're already tier 1. And I'm fairly confident that Nettle Cyst will get some amount of play there. Maybe you still need to play Lurrus instead. That's probably the restriction.
I think, yeah.
Yeah. At the same time, if you're playing Thought Monitor, you don't have Cranial Plating in Historic, so you're probably playing for Nettle Cyst, and you're very happy to do it. So I think that this is the largest non-existing archetype that's getting introduced from Jumpstart. We don't have an artifact aggro deck in that format. I would really like us to. Artifact aggro decks are fun. I see these things as being enough reward for artifact aggro players to go a little bit more all in and to work towards an affinity target rather than the sort of divergent targets they've had for a little while now. So yeah, I'm really excited by these.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like we had the Kaladesh remastered, which brought back a lot of the very impactful artifacts.
Yeah,
These three in particular are very much showcasing. I had in some of my watch lists, we had Chromatic Sphere and Equal Wellspring, which are extremely cheap artifacts that mostly replace themselves. Some of them replace themselves, both of them more replace themselves in an engine type effect, but they do build a framework for these sort of like heavy hitters or payoffs to shine. So
yeah, yeah.
I
We have a
haven't
bunch of the
quite
other
built,
stuff as
yeah,
well. Yeah,
I haven't built a
like
shelf of them yet, but I look at these
we
cards
got
and I'm
we have
just, I'm
so many
really worried.
pieces.
Yeah,
We don't have the
gotta
same
be a limit.
pieces that we have in other formats, but we do have Ornithopter, we do have Mox Amber, we do have Emery, we do
Yeah.
have Chromatic Star and Sphere, we do have, I mean, like infinite one drops, aggressive one drop artifacts, whether it be equipment or creatures. I don't know if we have quite enough yet, but we can't be that far away. So,
You can't
uh,
ignore this stuff.
yeah, and we just got Treasure Vault from Adventures in the Forgotten Realm, so there is an
Absolutely
artifact land label as well.
terrifying card. That
Yeah.
card is so scary.
Yep.
I don't know why like, oh, have an untapped artifact land
Yep.
that makes more artifacts.
Yeah. I
Great.
mean, if you're at a loss of what to do, um, I'm just gonna quickly look up if Darksteel Citadel is legal.
I don't believe so.
Yeah, it's not legal in Historic at
No,
the
that
moment.
would
So
be
they've only got
that
the
would
one
be
artifact
unacceptable.
land, but at the same time, the payoff here is incredible. So, looking forward to trying it.
Yeah, for sure. These are very real, very scary payoffs. So yeah, keep an eye out. Thought Monitor, yeah, best of the bunch, but when the worst is Mirror Enforcer, which was a card that broke several formats. Yeah. Yeah.
Let's do dumb artifact stuff.
Yay! I want to.
Yay!
I
Yeah.
love paying 0 for my cards.
I love zero mana 4/4s. I don't care who disagrees. Okay, all right, and the one you've all been waiting for, and probably are not very surprised by, but we did make it into a little bit of a package, is the following.
Yeah. Make it change, Samuel.
Sorry,
Yeah.
bud.
Red cards. Red cards got some good cards.
Dang, red card graveyard matters cards.
Oh, wait. Are you saying that there's a red card graveyard matters deck in Historic?
Oh, I do believe that there is, Russell.
What? That seems incredibly... That seems atrocious. Why would you give this level of power level to a pre-existing archetype that is already dominant?
It's really interesting how they just decided to ban planeswalkers here. Like,
Yeah,
they're just
they're all dead. What's that?
not
You got
interested in
Planeswalker?
planeswalkers in
That's
this
cute.
format
They're
anymore.
dead. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I'm really sick of
what
Teferis.
the heck, man?
Yeah.
What?
Yep. So I mean, like, I will say that Darcy is, Dragon's Rage Channeler Darcy is the card I've enjoyed playing the most from Modern Horizons 2, and I really like the play patterns of the card. I think it is way too powerful here. Unholy Heat similarly. If this was just Seasoned Pyromancer, and Seasoned Pyromancer is a very good card, then hey, this might still make number one.
Yeah. Season Pyromancer slots into a Misery R-type, completely enables it further, is a giant payoff and a giant enabler. all in a card, like absolutely filth. And then they're just like, oh, hey, would you like the best red removal spell ever printed? Better than Path to Exile? Cool. Ah, would you like potentially, I say this with an emphasis, but like not unreasonably, the best red one drop ever printed?
It's got my money for that one.
It's it's up there for me. I have some arguments, but it's extremely deep in the conversation.
Yeah, as long as it's
Darcy
in the
is
argument, it's going to matter.
scary. Darcy is so scary. Like, it is so easy to make this a 1 mana 3/3 flyer. That's
And I
not
mean, the other thing
okay.
is that with Darcy, it doesn't end there. It's not even just the fact that it's super efficient for its mana value. It's also that it enables some busted stuff. Like,
What
aforementioned cards,
does it
like being
fix
able
your
to,
draw or something?
I mean, just being able to surveil stuff into your graveyard to enable Delirium for itself and everything else, as well as put Arclight Phoenix in. And yeah, I mean, like, this card is legit. And it's going to be in a format with Faithless Looting as well.
Yeah.
These cards are all coming into
You
a Faithless Looting format, which
wouldn't
Modern is
mess
not
that.
because it was too powerful.
You
So,
wouldn't mess that.
look, I don't know who's going to push red off the mountain, and I don't know what argument there's going to be to just not play red, but we'll see.
Yeah, these are some extremely scary cards that support each other.
Yeah.
They, yeah, and like there is no drawback to any of these cards. There's no, oh, we have to build the deck around. They build the deck and there is already the tools in place to support it.
Yeah. The
It's
one thing I do like
terrifying.
about these the most is that it's more of a mid-range deck. It's not a
Oh,
bolt to the face, bolt to the face sort of
yeah,
archetype. So it should have some counterplay and all the rest, and hopefully there's things that can keep up. But day one, this is where I'm at.
most certainly, but I'm just talking like raw efficiency
Mm.
and supportive design. They just, yeah, this is I wouldn't say worrying, but I would just say very enticing. Like, yeah, I'm like, okay, I see what you would like me to do, and it's do all the stuff, and all my cards are over delivering on card value.
Hmm.
It's yeah. Yeah, makes my heart skip a beat. I'm not saying like this is a 4-4-4. The Pyromancer I would potentially roll between 2 to 3, but Darcy and Heat. Heat maybe 3, but Darcy 4 easily. It smooths out, it like dictates the state of the game and then very quickly turns into a very good threat for practically zero investment.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, like, I don't know what else I'll be doing in this format, but I know I'll be putting these three Expressive Iteration
Oh yeah.
and some other cards into a deck day one, and I'm gonna love it. I'm gonna have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So,
I wish
I mean,
Brainstorm wasn't.
yeah. Any closing thoughts there, Russell?
Um, it's an exciting time. It's not quite the death rattle that I had envisioned this jumpstart to do to Historic. So for that, I'm extremely grateful. I'm still a little bit terrified over this injection of power, but I'm more excited than terrified. So cautiously optimistic, which is pretty good for me if you know me. I'm normally on the fence to pessimistic, but I'm like, this could be fun. This could be
Yeah.
fun. I'm
All right.
keen to give it a crack. Red hot.
That's good to hear. So,
Yeah.
well, we've got a couple of weeks from when we're recording until this is
Yeah.
put out officially on
Sure.
Magic Arena. But
Yeah.
we look forward to checking back in with you guys later and seeing how this all ends up.
Yeah,
So
we might do a revision, we might not.
yeah, we're going to keep it fun for us, and we'll, if you guys have any feedback or want to hear from us about more about the wine or more about the magic or less about both, let us know.
Yeah, throw it our way. We're extremely open to criticism unless it hurts our feelings, in which case we'll block you and never talk to you again.
Yeah, no, any comments are welcome, except if they're dumb. No dumb comments. Just
Yeah, we
just
won't
the
deal with
smart
them.
ones.
Look, it's fun.
No, no dumb comments. I don't have the
Yeah,
time. No,
whatever. Bah,
nah,
bah.
nah.
Um, I sevened my almond cat draft and I'm waiting for the next one. So I want to go do some drafting.
Sick. All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us today, and I hope you got some value out of our top 10 list. And we'll see you all soon, hopefully in paper, and yeah, and we'll let you know our thoughts on this format as it plays out. Love you all. Goodbye.
We love you very much. Good night.